Right, welcome back everyone, I'm EvilStan, and this is a bonus video I decided to do for Dalmatians, which is the start of a different LP, a very different game in fact. This is Let's Play Heavenly Sword, also known as Goddess of War, and also known as a very few circles as the Lady of the Swords. This is also known as the one game by Ninja Theory that most people seem to like. If you don't know who they are, well then, let's just say that they used to be known as Just Add Monsters. They created Kung Fu Chaos, enslaved Odyssey to the West, and of course the big elephant in the room, DMC Devil May Cry. Some of you remember me posting about that experience. If you don't, then all you need to know is that my PlayStation 3 preferred suicide over actually trying to run the game itself. DMC stands for Destroy My Console, you see. Thus, I decided to try out another Ninja Theory game instead, perhaps one that won't cause my system to commit ritual seppuku. So let's jump right on in and see what kind of game earned Nariko the title of a PlayStation All-Star. Yes, an interesting note is that originally this game was being developed for PC and Xbox 360 before the title was picked up of Sony by Europe. Thus, the game became a Sony exclusive title and one of the early games on the PS3, and the folks at Superbot loved it. While there are those who do consider this game quite the havoc, it seems most complaints from critics are that it's too short and has no online. Why you would even expect a game like this to have online play in the first place is beyond me, but there you have it. And yes, this game will remind you about the autosave feature every single time you load it up. Marvelous! Most people also seem to praise the game for its extensive motion capture done by Weta Workshop. Keep that in mind as well. And yes, you can expect the game to take this long to load every time you start it up. Anyway, there we are, finally at the title screen, and just like the title screen, you can expect everything about this game to be overblown. I would start a drinking game, but I feel as though most of you would be dead by the time this video is over. I should also probably note that this is yet another LP that I probably won't be finishing anytime soon, so don't get attached. Oh good, the game is starting us off at the ending. Perhaps I'll be able to finish this thing in a timely manner after all.
It was written that 23 years ago, in the year of the Fire Horse, a deity would be reborn in the body of a mortal.
It was called God of War.
A savior, destined to unite our people and show us the way to the
Home of the Ancients.
Instead, I was born from my mother's dying body.
If she was dead, how'd she give birth to you? And this is where the silliness begins. Look at that expression. In fact, pay attention to most of the expressions in this game. They can get quite silly. Alright, so if you've played God of War, then you've pretty much played this game. The combat system is entirely the same for the most part. However, I will say that there are some differences, and said differences seem to turn this game into a weird hybrid of God of War and Devil May Cry. You have light, medium, and heavy attacks, all of which go from longest to shortest range and weakest to strongest power. I try to execute as many super-style attacks as I can here, as I was trying to show off a move where she does Dante's free ride, but I failed, and thus I must punish the joy department here in various ways. Now then, out of Nariko's 3 attack styles, only medium and heavy are really worth using, since they're the only ones that can block certain attacks. You also have dodge rolling, as well as the ability to pick up objects and use them as precision-guided missiles, but we'll get to that later. Anyway, if you couldn't already tell, this is a time mission. You can probably just stand around and wait for the whole sequence to end on its own, but that would be boring, unless we're going to take out a few more grunts before the power of storytelling takes over.
My clan believed this sword was forged in heaven.
No idea how you could think that. Look at what it's doing right now.
No mortal may wield it in.
Aha! Here is our villain, voiced by Andy Serkis. If you think he looks at all dignified or scary now, just wait. You'll change your mind about him soon enough.
The sacred weapon.
Look at those expressions.
Even in our darkest moments, the sword was never to be used.
Well, clearly you didn't have a dark enough moment then.
The heavenly sword.
Clearly.
Savored the grace and fury in my blows, never once forgetting what I was offering for such power. Days ago, I made my fatal choice. The pact is at an end. Now I must pay the price.
Well, that was a short game. What'd you all think? Personally, I thought it was a bit too short for my taste. I suppose I can see why people complain now. You never know with these things. So, judging by that emoticon carved into her arm over there, what I'm getting out of all of this is that Heaven has a sense of humor. And so, the Earth turns to magma, and we all ascend into a vortex in the sky that no one seems to notice.
I would walk through hell for a chance to change this.
No! No, wait!
Wait for what? Oh, another thing to count, how many times Naruko's hair physics go all over the place, as well as whenever the lip syncing is off. People tend to praise that too. Man, she must be very impressed by that mountain in the distance. Look at that mile-long stare.
Why have you taken me now?
Well, you did fulfill a pact. I mean, was the contract not spelled out clearly?
Let me go.
I asked the same things when my PS3 died.
Without me, they will perish.
All those people we didn't see, they'll die without me.
Answer me!
Well, you didn't ask a question.
I am not ready to die. Not yet.
And being not ready to die, she just sort of gives up and stands around as the menu screen finally decides to show up. Anyway, let's open up the combo list, and you might notice that broken shield over there. That helps you get around well shields. Needless to say, enemies who guard are very annoying, so you'll want to keep that in mind. All the other menus here are basically what you'd expect, but I decided to kind of show them off anyway. No idea why, though, personally. Right then, this is one of the biggest concerns. It's the option screen, because otherwise you have to put up with the game's terrible 6-axis controls. I know it looks like they're all set to off by default, but that's because I turned them off prior to this recording. Anyone who didn't know this game worked off 6-axis, I feel very sorry for you in a few upcoming levels. So then, let's just go right into the main game, shall we? This giant blade juts out of the ground with orbs all over it. Now, those orbs do not represent chapters, as one might expect at first, but rather the checkpoints within each chapter, so we've got a way to go. Thus, this will be Chapter 1, Checkpoint 1.
Bohan. A king from a distant country.
It doesn't have a name.
Sword. He seeks it as a symbol of his dominance over my clan, and with it, his dominance over the land.
Looks like they're in no rush to get you, though. I mean, look at it. They're just walking.
And he is relentless.
Well, I have a hard time believing that. I mean, again, he's just walking at you. How can he be relentless?
Kai!
I don't like these drums.
Yeah, the soundtrack's nothing to write home about.
Now!
If you haven't gathered by now, this is a vaguely Asian setting wherein almost all the residents have either an Australian or British accent. This game is about as accurate to settings as Shadow Hearts is.
And tigers make great trophies when skinned.
Alright, I'll admit, that was a pretty nice line.
As you command, Father.
What was up with her eyes there?
What are you waiting for? Barricade the doors!
Why wasn't that your first priority? Man, that is some solid snow. Look at it. No indents or anything. Oh no, they're climbing. They have ladders. The ingenuity. So, right, they scale up here, and then we actually start off in the game. So now that we're actually in the game, I'll give this game credit in that the tutorials are skipped if you can show the game that you already know what you're doing. However, this also raises the question of why they couldn't just ask you if you wanted the tutorials on or not. Well, whatever. Anyway, the game tries to get you to get to the bottom quicker by having some of the enemies up here ignore you, but I'd rather kill everyone up here first because it makes the mission shorter overall. Here's another thing to count. How many times Naruko aims for the joy department? This game is actually fond of the groin attack. I mean, that's just mean. The main character of Naruko here would be later put into Sony's cross title, Pasasper, being rivaled with DMC Dante. Make of that what you will. The voice direction here is done by Andy Serkis, who you might recognize as Gollum from the Lord of the Rings films. Andy Serkis also acts as one of the writers and voice acts for the game, so if you don't like the plot, you know partly who to blame. Oh, and as a side note, if anyone comments that I need to finish Dalmatians for Tales of the Abyss, I will physically eat the discs. Naruko here is voiced by Australian actress Anna Traub, later to be replaced by Jennifer Hale in PlayStation All-Stars for whatever reason. No idea why they couldn't get her original voice actress back, considering Superbot apparently loved the title. But, hey, whatever. Anyway, we're gonna keep stabbing some guys here. As you can see, the gameplay's pretty dead simple. As you might notice, some enemies, when they attack, glow. Now, that is not just because they're big fans of Dragon Ball. That is actually a mechanic that I will explain later on. And you also might see me notice stopping to attack to try and stab everyone who goes on the ground. That is because if you don't, they'll just get back up and keep fighting, and they'll be a very big annoyance. However, the problem is that the detection on the ground stab move, which you think would be simple, just stand near someone who's on the ground and then hit square for automatically stabbing them, it doesn't quite work. The detection seems to be really weird. So you kinda gotta struggle with it. It's odd. So anyway, we go around, see if there's anyone else to kill. I kinda kick the air for no reason, and determining no one else is coming around, we descend down, and so we have to help defeat Bohan's soldiers. You might also note that Naruko is the only one of worth in this entire clan, because everyone else just kind of stands around while you do all of the work. Another mechanic in this game is that if you're not pressing any buttons while an enemy is attacking you, you will automatically guard it. This is supposed to promote that you don't button mash, but it doesn't really work half the time. You'll see why in a moment. Anyway, we've got these barrels over here which we can actually throw at people, and I'll be able to show why the throwing mechanics are very silly in this game. But first, we take care of this guy and his friend. No idea what they were doing. And let's grab this barrel. Here we go! Yes, you can precision remote control everything you throw. It doesn't matter what object it is, but you can control it as it flies through the air. Granted, the control isn't very good, but it is very fun. Also, every thrown object will instant kill an opponent, no matter what it is, no matter what you're throwing. This gets really funny later on in the game when you're throwing things as simple as hats. Oh, and also that barrel in the background shows off how the ragdoll physics in this game work. It's really great. So I'm just gonna say that I missed with that barrel shot on purpose to show that off. You can't prove otherwise. Get out of it. So now that it's done, we have to wait for the game to load the next chapter. Or rather, checkpoint. Waiting. You didn't do anything. No, the battle is not still raging. Everyone is dead.
Shen. He has always been my tutor first, and my father second.
Well, then how did he give birth to you?
My accursed
Technically, he
birth
would be your father first.
and the death of my mother are hard for him. I fear that part of him can never truly forgive me for that.
It's all your fault. Now, this brings up another game for you folks at home to partake in. Count just how many soldiers are in Bohan's army, because the number gets pretty goddamn ridiculous, and the game's implications can be that the entire country is after this clan of about 12 people. So, back to business as usual. What you might have noticed about the cutscene is that everything exudes drama, despite the fact that we know nothing about anyone involved. There was actually an animated series created that is both online and on PSN that serves as a prequel to this game. So if you want, the full story, you'd better have known about that beforehand, I suppose. Anyway, there is also a Heavenly Sword CGI film being developed as we speak, which brings back Anna Trav as Naruko as well. According to Ninja Theory co-founder Tami Mentoniades, they've had an entire trilogy planned for this game since the beginning. However, considering it's been 7 years and the game is now property of Sony of Europe, the chances are slim. Not to mention a sequel would probably be very odd considering that this game outright spoils how it ends. No idea how you could make a sequel out of, her dying. Anyway, what you might notice there is that I can automatically counterattack after blocking someone's attack. That is actually a mechanic in this game. You just hit the triangle button right after someone hits you and you block it. As I was saying before, you can automatically guard any attacks that whenever you're not pressing buttons, and it's to remote you to not button mash. However, it doesn't work for a couple reasons. One, because most of the time enemies will only attack you when you're attacking someone else, and even if you sit around and don't hit anything, they'll still hit you anyway. Not to mention, there's another guarding mechanic that we'll go over later on. Anyway, back to the cutscenes. Awkward silence.
You know why this is happening, don't you?
Well, yes, the opening narration said Bohan wants the sword.
Let him speak.
Well, okay, let's not listen to the sensible person.
We all know who brought called this curse down upon us.
I am no curse.
Enough!
This war is of one person's making.
Tamim and Todiatus?
True, but that person is not Mariko.
Awkward pause.
This
Come on, Shen. How long have we known each other?
I don't know. How long have you known each other?
Bohan's war. Even as an arrogant young prince, he was capable of cruelty beyond measure. Now he commands an entire army.
More like an entire freaking continent at this point.
Together or we die alone. And that means all of us
Except you.
assassins
How would you know that?
approaching.
In fact, how would you be even able to hear that?
Kai, listen to me, Kai. I want you to climb the trees and shoot at any soldiers you can see.
Shoot Dronzer at all the soldiers that you see. It will be very effective. They won't know what the hell you're doing.
Nariko, where do you think you're going?
That wasn't an answer to my question, Narco. Whatever. Anyway, this here's Night Attack.
You've had your playtime.
Who are you talking to?
Turn now.
So, yeah, this is one of the parts where you have to control Kai. I feel sorry for those who forgot to turn off the 6-axis because the controls for it here are really bad. It doesn't help that the shooting sections for this aren't that good in the first place. Any soldiers you fail to kill now are soldiers that you'll have to kill as Naruto afterwards. Each soldier missed will also drain a small bit of Kai's health, so you can't just sit around and let all the enemies in just to kill them as Naruto. Unfortunate, I know. There's no point in taking the time to fully aim either, since enemies are smart enough to be constantly on the move. Just try to shoot where they'll be, rather than where they are, and keep in mind that it takes 2 to 3 shots to kill everyone. Other than that, the only advice I can give is just kind of always be firing, because you never know when a stray arrow might actually hit. Yeah... Needless to say, doing this with the 6-axis is really bad. Imagine if you were playing Uncharted, but unlike in Uncharted, where all of the controls are really responsive and really good, this thing swings around wildly and you have no control over what you're doing or where you're aiming. It's really bad. There are also these guys who will sit back just to shoot at you. You'll want to take them out first, even if, you know, it takes a little while. As well, you also want to keep in mind that soldiers will start approaching from all angles, so being zoomed in all the time probably isn't a good idea, and I really should have been following my own advice here. But hey, whatever, we're doing good so far, right? I mean, we're half dead, but we're getting every soldier we've aimed at, just about, except that one guy we just missed. Whoops. So we're gonna continue Who the hell was that? Also, another downside is that even a lot of soldiers you could so easily be able to shoot if Kai would just shift her weight slightly more a certain direction. Unfortunately, that is beyond her capability, and a lot of soldiers are going to get by you regardless because they spawn so close to you. Like right there, I mean, Kai could have easily just aimed downward just a tiny bit more and would have been able to kill that guy, but unfortunately you're unable to do that. It's not good, so we're just gonna keep firing at these guys and do what we can. I don't know why they're shouting. They're not very stealthy assassins, are they? Oh, and yes, you can remote control the arrows too, although there's not really much of a point in doing so because the arrows aren't very responsive to that mechanic. You're better off really just rapid firing everywhere. It's not like remote controlling them adds any power anywhere, at least I don't think it does. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Alright, who is shouting?
Good time.
No, it was not a good time. Anyway, Kai just sort of gives up on the remaining soldiers that are still alive but haven't reached the fort at all. Anyway, this is the more fun part of the missions, especially since they give us a lot of toys to use here. As you can see, they give us a lot of stuff to throw, which means more of this. God, I love doing that. And that was just to, again, show that you could instant kill. Also, the counterattack mechanic is really weird in this game. Sometimes you'll get dynamic ones like that, other times you won't. As well, sometimes counterattacks will instant kill, other times they'll just throw the enemy off you. there doesn't really seem to be a rhyme or reason. Maybe it's a timing thing, but I'm pretty sure I've been timing them all correctly. Another thing you'll notice with all of these dynamic counters, and as I've said before, is that Nariko really loves to aim for the groin. No idea why. Maybe it's because every soldier you're fighting is inexplicably male, and she just kind of feels like doing that. I don't know. I guess you'd do it too if it were effective. Like that! Jesus, lady, calm down! So, anyway, we're gonna keep beating some people up here because we quickly get cornered. However, there's really not much of a penalty. In fact, you kind of want all of the enemies to come at you at once, so you can get them all off you and quickly kill some people off on the ground. Speaking of which, another thing that makes the sort of stab mechanic kind of annoying is that you'll get someone on the ground and then another enemy soldier will instantly run in to cover them. I mean, I suppose that's smart, but all it does is prolong fights out. As you'll also notice, there's a little combo meter on the bottom there. That helps you unlock things within the game if you get it high enough. Now, otherwise, there's really no point to paying attention to it, really. It's just sort of there for fluff. Anyway, you don't want to get cornered like this. It's very bad. You might notice that I kind of pause at certain points. This is because I expect enemies to attack, but they don't. That seems to be a common thing. I don't know why. Upcoming here is actually a part that really surprised me about this level, though, and that they actually thought of it. Look at it. The guy actually goes down the well, and then inexplicably comes out of it, and goes back down again. That was great. Anyway, I have been Evil Stan, and this has been Let's Play Heavenly Sword. You all have a good day now. Goodbye, goodbye.